Hello, Taurus friends. I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my Taurus May 2023 Astrology Horoscope forecast. Calling the theme of this month, 9 Taurus planets and new moon in your sign. Everything is pointing towards amazing energy for you right now. It's very rare that we have this many planets concentrated in one area of the chart, in one sign, and it's all in Taurus. So we're going to take it all piece by piece, plus add other important things like the lunar eclipse that's opposing your sign. You all are still in the hot seat with the second to last part of the eclipse cycle that ends at the end of 2023. And we have other things to talk about. This report is for you if Taurus is your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, or any other placement of Taurus you're watching for. What we're going to talk about here is part of your astrological picture. And for very late degree friends, so birthdays around May 15th through the rest of the sign, or Taurus placements around 23 degrees through the rest of the sign, I suggest you additionally listen to my Gemini report because you very late degree friends will benefit from both. All right, so let's just get right into it. If you're listening to the podcast version of this and you hear me referring to visuals and you want to see them, go to my YouTube channel, Annie Botticelli YouTube, and look for the Taurus May 2023 report to get the visuals. If you don't like the visuals, then you can listen to the podcast version or just scroll up in the screen so that the visuals are not visible, but that you can still hear the information. You can search for Astro Kisses with Annie Botticelli on Spotify or any other platform for the podcast. Okay, so let's count them. Jupiter is about to go into Taurus. That's 1. Star goddess Estrella. 2. Transiting North Node. Vesta, the Sun, Mercury, planet Uranus, the behemoth Sedna, and star goddess Juno, plus the new moon. That's 9 planets and 10 transits in all, if you consider the new moon that's in your sign. So what does it mean? It means that everything that each of those planets brings is bringing it directly to you. All right, so a quick summary. Jupiter is going to move into Taurus and be there for a year. So you have Taurus, the great benefic, the bringer of luck and expansion in your sign from this May until next May of 2024. You've got transiting North Node helping you to step into your highest level of expression. Star goddess Estrella bringing justice and clearing of karma. You have star goddess Vesta, who rules the sacred flame, your sacred flame and your home and family. The Sun, which brings your prolific expression to what lights you up. Mercury, communication, news. Uranus, surprises. Sudden insights, genius. Strikes of lightning that come and bring in new things very quickly. The behemoth Sedna. We're not going to be able to have time to do this justice, but she takes a long time to move around, like 40 to 50 years, and she's about to have a sign change, but for a little while longer, she's still in your sign, Taurus. And star goddess Juno, bringing energy to partnerships, relationships. Oh, and Sedna rules the connectedness of all things, including all of the futuristic types of connections and ways that advancements of the present and future may be helpful to you. And all of these are crowding in your first house up, your physical body, your image, your identity, rebirth, regeneration, renewal, starting of whole new cycles. Think about 12 years ago when Jupiter was last in your sign. What kind of things happened then? Not to say that everything that happened 12 years ago is going to happen now, because there were different astrological factors at play then, but this is very strongly giving you the energy to create your life from the ground up with as much richness and goodness as you would like. All right, so these are the foundations. Some of them are manifesting now, and some of these are seed planting. You've got Venus heating up your financial sector, and finances are a major topic this month, really for everybody, because Taurus rules security and that feeling of physical pleasures. Taurus rules that sensual, things that you can touch, soft fabrics and fragrant flowers and delectable food, the kind of material pleasures. But also when we say material, it's not necessarily financial or things that you buy. It could be material, meaning of this realm, like hugging a tree or getting your bare feet into the earth and grounding. All of this energy is very Taurian in nature. And so not only are all of these planets accentuating this, and Venus is also transiting your second house of Taurus, this brings this focus to the finances and your budget and your spending and your material items and just the energy. I always think about hobbits when I think about the energy of Taurus. If you know anything about hobbits, think about Hobbiton. Super beautiful place, rolling hills, little houses built into the side of the mountain, and fresh flowers around, wheelbarrows of pumpkins, prolific goodies from the garden. They have festivals and parties where everyone dances. Inside, they've got large, it's a large, cavernous, comfy, cozy home with soft fabrics and a big food cellar and the best, mead or wine or whatever they drink. So it's really a lot about enriching your experience from a sensual perspective and about establishing and deepening your financial and other security and self-sufficiency. This energy also rules doing things with your hands, where you can imagine gardening, the feeling of the dirt in your hands, molding clay, making jewelry, things that you do with your hands. So there may be this definition or redefinition of things that you bring out to the world, things that people know you as, that has to do with these types of activities. So we've got lots more going on now. Let's talk about this Taurus eclipse cycle. The end of 2021 through the end of 2023, Taurus and Scorpio placements got put into the hot seat. When we have eclipses in our sign, that means for the couple of years that those eclipses are going on, the transiting north and south node are also transiting through your sign and your opposing sign, which is bringing massive clearing of karma, changing of patterns, opening up of new trajectories, and potentials for your highest expression. It's also a chance to find hidden gifts and to coax out of your genetic makeup and your genetic potentiality everything wonderful through clearing through the muck. The polarity of Taurus versus Scorpio has to do with my stuff, Taurus, versus our stuff, Scorpio. The logical, Taurus. The emotional, Scorpio. The seen and tangible, Taurus. The esoteric and lesser seen and intangible, Scorpio. So these polarities are actively at play and deepening on many different levels, causing very, very, very intense goodbyes and endings of chapters, and very, very, very just as intense hellos and opening of new brilliant doorways. The law that energy is not created nor destroyed, it only changes form, is very much obvious at this time, as some things are taken away and other things are added in their place. Sometimes it's not as neat as something goes and something comes as far as a timeline. Sometimes the new thing comes in before the other thing goes. Sometimes you have to wait a while for the new thing to fill that space and kind of sit in the void for a while. I kind of liken it to, I imagine this scenario, what I see happen very often, where a grandparent dies and a grandchild is born, right? So the person loses the parent, but they gain the baby. And that happens a lot, because there's a certain amount of space that fills our world, even though in many ways it's endless. When something leaves that carries a very, major amount of energetics, then something seeks to replace it. Just like as soon as you clear off the counter, there's stuff on there again. Space seeks to be filled. So you've been in the hot seat with these dramatic endings and brilliant new beginnings, and we are not done yet. So this is the second to last eclipse cycle of the bigger cycle that started from 2021, ends in 2023. In the fall or spring for you all down under, we'll have the last cycle later this year. This time, the eclipse is on May 5th at 14 degrees of Scorpio. It's a lunar eclipse, lunar full moon eclipse, and something in your relationship space is going to get affected. This can be very positive, like you have a baby and now you say goodbye to the time with your relationship before the baby, right? It's bittersweet. Or there's a divorce, there's a breakup, there's a changing of chapter or a different relationship to your relationship. Because what else is going on here is the Aries Libra profile, because that is the houses. Okay, so we have the signs of Taurus and Scorpio affected. But for Taurus, it's the Aries Libra houses, the 1st and 7th, that are being affected. So your relationship to relationship, your codependency, your synergy, your independence, your shared creations or interdependence. So something is shifting here in your emotional space of intimacy or money. For many people, this could result in a bunch of money coming in. Now, these are money focused placements. Like I told you before, they can be inner riches. Both Scorpio and Taurus can speak of inner riches, inner resources. It doesn't have to just be money, but that is a very big part of many of our experiences here. And it's very active at this time. So the ending of certain income and the beginning of other income, the ending of, let's say, governmental assistance, but then your business working out well and you not needing it, or the end of, a payout that you had in a lawsuit and now you use that money to foster your independent income, your earning power. And there's that kind of shuffling around of other people's money, shared money, spousal money, and your individual money. If you want to have some context about what kind of things can happen here, think back to late 2012 through late 2014. That was the last time this eclipse happened. Prior to that, late 2002 through early 2005. The types of shuffling around of our stuff, your stuff, my stuff that happened then, and deepening of relationships and development of autonomy and that dance between, those type of storylines are cycling back around now. Many times people will ask me, I had terrible things happen then. Is it going to happen again? Of course, I don't know what's going to happen, but just remember that there were astrological factors at play in those periods of time that are not at play now. So it's not going to be necessarily the exact replica of everything, but just certain themes that relate to you versus other people are the types of themes. So things you learned then, you may benefit from now. Lessons you got, you may benefit from those now. Lessons you didn't quite get, you may have a chance to get them now. We are also under the influence of that April 20th Black Moon eclipse in Aries. We're not going to talk about that much here because I go into it in lots of detail in the April report. So look for April, Taurus April 2023. But I want to mention it here because 4 to 6 weeks before and after each of the eclipses is the heat of the season. Things can certainly manifest before or after that timeline because these, transiting north and south nodes are in a constant travel through these polarities for the entire years that the whole cycle goes on. But the hot spots happen 4 to 6 weeks before and after. So, 4 to 6 weeks before April 20th, that's like a couple of weeks into March. And 4 to 6 weeks after is into the beginning of June. So May is definitely covered with the energy of that Aries eclipse as well, pretty much just as much as the storyline from this Scorpio one. All right, so a couple of dates to note. We said 5/5, May 5th, that's the Scorpio eclipse. But it's, it can rule the time before and after, so manifestations can happen at any times before and after. May 19th, we've got the new moon in your sign. We usually only get one of these a year, unless there's a black moon or a blue moon for the full moons. So 25 degrees of Taurus. So all of these planets are set up at early, middle, and late degree, all the ones I mentioned. So everyone in the Taurus spectrum is being affected by one or more of these planets now or in the future or in the recent past. But those of you who are near 25 degrees, so we'll say 20 degrees through 29 degrees, the closer to 25 degrees, the more you get the exact connection from that new moon. So that's going to relate to like around May 10th, 11th, 12th through like May 20th, 21st, 22nd. And the closer you are to the 15th, 16th, 17th, the more you get that exact date. For that eclipse, that's at 14 degrees. So those of you who get the direct opposition will be between 9 and 19 degrees. The more you get the direct connection, the more it's going to be very obvious, the effects, or profound the effects. So 9 through 19 degrees, the closer to 14 degrees, the more you get that opposition from that eclipse. And that is a more powerful transit than this new moon, by far. Eclipses usually, they say they have the power of like 3 moons in one, so like there's triple effects from the eclipse compared to a new moon energy. So that's going to relate to basically like the first 10 days or so of May. So May 1st through around May 10th, and the closer to like the 5th, the more you get the direct energy. Really with eclipses, you could go out to a 7-degree margin and it could still really be obvious, so even the last couple of days of April into like May 12th, 13th, 14th, this is a powerful event. Something else noteworthy to mention is that we have more sweet aspects compared to salty ones this month. If you know the terms that I coined here, the salty ones are the ones that are the mathematical connections in the sky that are more challenged, or nuisance kind of aspects. And the sweet ones are the harmonious ones. So we've got more of those sweet ones compared to the other ones. And that's a nice blessing when we're talking about an intense month in the midst of eclipse season. Something else that is very exciting for earth and water signs, as Taurus is an earth sign, so this is for you here, that of those sweet aspects, the vast majority of them are between earth and water placements. So that means the kisses that come from all of those placements are more likely to directly line in to your placement. If you like to have that type of information, like what are the important aspects, how may they manifest, delivered to your inbox 1 month early for your planning purposes, go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter. I only send out 3 newsletters a month, all with, rich in content to help you make the most of this starry planetary opportunities. That same site will show you other free things that I do. Shine, my 28-day virtual coaching program that you get when you sign up for my free email newsletter. Plus, you'll get links to my written horoscopes and blog sites. Okay, so you can find all my free goodies there. So moving on, Venus has been lighting up your house of money. We talked about that before. A lot of focus on that second house through all those Taurus placements. But this month, Venus is going to go into the 3rd house, and Mars will still be there for a little while longer. This is accentuating your communication and transportation, making things very busy. A lot of running around, driving around, communication, chance for you to express yourself in new and wonderful ways, and to hear others better to enrich your relationships. Then Mars will move into Leo and go into the 4th house. Now this is a square for Taurus, so this might bring a little pressure. And this is in the house of home, family, and real estate, home-based business, psychology, your childhood psychology, things that happened as a child that are affecting you now, your ancestry. So there may be some things to deal with on the home front. And this is kind of echoed by that eclipse, since that's, in your deep, intimate, and financial relationships. There's definitely some pressure there. Pressure doesn't have to be a bad thing. Pressure can be a good thing in the way that it can crack us open into new and wonderful experiences and get us out of a rut. With all of the wonderful persistence and consistency that people with Taurus placements tend to have, unless you don't have a lot of Taurus in your chart, you have something else that's more dominant, these are Taurian traits. And that sometimes could feel a little bit stodgy, where you want something new, you want something different, but it's hard to break out of those habits or patterns. These squares are the type of energy, and even these oppositions, like with the eclipse, are the type of energy that can crack up any stodginess and add new vitality into your life. Pluto, recently in Aquarius, is going to spend a long time in your 10th house. And not only am I an astrologer, but I'm a person who has had Pluto moving through my 10th house for, a very long time, pretty much close to 2008. So not only do I have a professional understanding of this transit. I'm very fresh in it because I have Aries rising. So the things that happen in the outer planets, or actually all the things that happen in the Taurus chart, they happen in the Aries chart first. So it's like staggered. So I can tell you what this looks like, all right? Pluto in the 10th house, Pluto says grow or die. This has to do with your work and career. Anything with your work. If you have had a business for 30 years and it's been successful, and you say, I'm going to rest on my laurels, do things the same way I've done them for 30 years, that might not be what Pluto wants you to do. Just keep remembering for the next 20 or so years, and longer than that in the Placidus chart for the later degree, the later you are in Taurus, the longer this is going to be in effect. If you have a choice to stay with the same old comfortable ways of doing your business and work, then you might have a reverse in fortune because Pluto wants you to grow. So if that means you're a person who's had, a cottage business for 30 years and you're like, I don't need all this internet business. You do. You probably do. And it might be time to open up to that. Or something that looks like that the same. Maybe you've been doing the same thing for 10 years. Pluto is saying maybe it's time for transformation in what you're offering to the world. And this message goes out to you even if you're not doing anything in the world to earn money. If you're independently wealthy or you're retired, growing in what you're bringing out to the world is what Pluto wants you to do now and for a long time to come. And because this is in a square, that's a pressure point. And we already talked about this. Taurus, getting in the habit, getting comfortable. Pluto does not want you to be comfortable. And Pluto will make sure of that. So you have beautiful transformation ahead. And the less you resist it, the more joy you can have. We know all of the spiritual texts will tell us that resistance is actually hell, right? It is the pain, the worst pain that we experience is when we resist something that is or is going to be. So the less you have resistance here, the more you can have joy and benefit from the positive aspects. Okay, now besides all of these planets that are in Taurus, included in these planets that are in Taurus is Mercury doing its retrograde thing. So everyone will experience the potentials for the typical Mercury retrograde things. And this month is covered in retrograde. It will shift about 3/4 of the way through. We're going to talk about that in a second. But what we want to talk about here first is the fact that Mercury is retrograde in your sign, and that all of you will be feeling that with a special personal visit here. But those of you with 5 to 15 degrees Taurus placements, so that's going to be like the, April 27th-ish. The sun doesn't move into Taurus the same day every year. So that's why I have to say around, the days around, okay? So the days around April 27th through the days around May 7th or so, you're going to have Mercury hitting yours placement, retrograding back over it, and then crossing over it again. So just so you know, there could be special lessons and opportunities there for you, but nobody's left out of the potentials. Now let's talk about this retrograde timeline. April 7th, Mercury started its pre-retrograde shadow transit. April 21st, Mercury went into retrograde. Through around May 15th, could be a different date depending on your time zone. And then from the time it goes direct through May 30th is the post-direct transit shadow period. Okay? So what does that mean? It means that most of May is covered in retrograde fog, which tends to cast everything into uncertainty, make you not be able to see more than one step ahead. So difficult planning, things up in the air, confusion, changes of plans, changes of schedule, a lot of back and forth, miscommunications, appliances going haywire, things that were under the surface or under the rug, swept up, being blown into the air. And that's retrograde. It can be a wonderful thing. Beautiful blast from the past, beautiful clearing up of clutter, wrapping up loose ends. Those are good ways to use the energy. And it's just helpful to know that there may be confusion and uncertainty. That's why I give you these reports ahead of time, so that when you go through it, you're like, oh, why am I so confused? Well, Annie told me. Why? Because, if you hadn't been confused, maybe there's long-term confusion going on. We're not speaking to that. If all of a sudden everything is like up in the air and everything that you've planned is either called into question or it's changing, now you know why. Mercury does that. So it's best to not try to conjure things, force things, or plan a bunch of things. The third week or so in May is a little bit better. May 21st through the rest of the month, we start to get more clear of that retrograde web, and it's completely clear May 30th. But this is a good time to be the spider. The spider, not the hunting spider. The hunting spider that jumps on things and bites them. That's a more direct energy. I'll put him over there. Okay, so this spider, this lady, she, in this web that she made, is going to wait for what comes into the web, right? So wait to react or respond to what comes to you instead of conjuring or forcing something, and you will be a lot better off. Leave yourself as unscheduled as possible. Only plan necessary appointments so you won't spend the whole month re-planning and rescheduling. And leave room for last minute magic. This is one of my favorite things about retrograde. It's a time to deal with what comes up, and a lot of things will need attention right in where your arms reach around you. All those things right around you are going to be where your best attention is, not trying to be, unless, fate puts you somewhere if you're traveling or something happens. Otherwise, but again, that's coming from outside to you. That's not you trying to conjure something. So if you are on the beach and you're in the retrograde, you're the person waiting to see if the dolphins come in, to see if garbage comes in, you just deal with it. Then when we shift to direct energy, which happens after the second half of the month, it's time for the launches and the clarity and the future planning and the pushing and initiating and the jumping spider stuff. Brand new projects, anything you conjure, like if you are planning a move, rather than if a move is planned for you and it's out of your control, you would just do it whenever. But if you're planning and you want it to be long-term agreements, there's more of a chance you're not going to miss fine print when Mercury is direct. There's more of a chance you're going to miss fine print when Mercury is retrograde. So when you make agreements and arrangements, there's a good chance that you won't know what you're really getting yourself into. So a word to the wise is hopefully sufficient. My book, Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe, actually has a lot of information on retrograde and direct planets. This is one of my areas of expertise. And I have checklists for things to do in the different placements. But also you can go to AnnieBAstrology.com, Annie, the letter B, astrology.com, and sign up for my exclusive content portal. And I have my 2023 planning calendar. So you can align with the natural rhythms, because in June we have a little open window. Then we start to shift into Venus retrograde shadow period, and Venus rules love, beauty, money, self-esteem so much. You can search for my free stuff, Annie Botticelli Venus retrograde, to kind of get a leg up on that. But this is our Mercury retrograde story for now. If you love how I teach and you want to learn astrology either for your own personal or professional development, I can teach you. Go to beastropro.com, beastropro.com. You can see my Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery Course, and I can help you go from ground zero to earning money as an astrologer. Or if you have been studying for a long time, but you're having trouble pulling it together and getting your confidence and getting your footing in the professional realm, I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, a successful entrepreneur for 25 years, and I've had an online business, a successful online business, for 17 years. So I tend to be ahead of the trends and get things really well established to help people cross over those bridges, so you can benefit from all of my entrepreneurial expertise and astrology expertise with my course, beastropro.com. If you go to my school, lumelife.com, Lume life.com, I've got some pre-courses on abundance and wellness. I also have blog sites. I'm not going to list everything here, but just look in the notes underneath the video or podcast. And I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.